Marcelo Tabarelli. My background is in plant ecology and conservation. I am associate professor at Pernambuco Federal University in Brazil, where I am conducting a lot of research looking at the future of both Atlantic forest and the Caatinga dry forest. Yes, this debate contrasting land sharing versus land sparing as the main strategies for biodiversity conservation is a key topic because in fact it brings to the table all the biological, economic, political and social requirements for the achievement of biodiversity conservation and human well-being, particularly in the tropical region. And I would say that most or part of these requirements are in fact conflicting. If I look at in terms of biodiversity conservation, for example, I would say that expressive amount of tropical biodiversity needs large blocks of protected or even old growth or pristine habitats. And this condition is not maybe economic or is not so easy to obtain in certain landscape dominated by smallholding or even familiar agricultural enterprise. But in the other hand, biodiversity is not able to persist in the case these blocks remain completely isolated in harsh or biodiverse unfriendly matrix, as you are experiencing in the scenario of business as usual. So for biodiversity, you need the blocks, but we also need a friendly landscape, and it's more easy to get this condition if you think in terms of landing sharing, in terms of keeping together, permitting the coexistence of productive lands and small pieces of native ecosystems. So the best option, and the audience went in this direction, is you need both in fact. Large blocks of protected habitats and more friendly landscape. But the question is politically, socially and economically, how to get there. It's possible or it's not possible. In some landscapes, in some regions, because the rural structure, the way land is divided, is used, it's quite challenging to obtain this possibility. So for me, the point is not related to what you need in terms of biological requirements, but how to incorporate the social, the political, and the economic question in this design. Looking at the most common situation, and that's this debate has emerged because you have opposite situation in the ground operating. Large blocks surrounded by very productive lands. It's the agribusiness scenario, the commodity scenario that's quite common in the tropical region. But in the opposite side, you have this landscape dominated by rural, familiar-based landowners that in the both cases, they need profitable economic activities. Despite of the discussion if you need more or less food globally, the problem at the local scale, people living in the ground, they need profitable, proper livelihood. So in both cases, you must think in terms of rural development that make landowners able to have profitable activities, but activities that are able to respect the environmental safeguards. So it's more related to rural development. Well, as a conservation biologist, I think that large blocks of pristine habitat is an irreplaceable tool for conserving biodiversity and even for providing ecological services. So you have to arrange the biological requirements and by this I think avoiding species extinction locally and at landscape level or even in regional level in a way that people are able to have profitable economic activities and wealth societies. Yes, I have attending in the last decade, I would say, all the time, taking part in symposium and offer talks, and this meeting is the most important meeting for tropical conservation biologists, because you can see what people are discussing, what people are thinking, and the major problems you are facing as tropical biologists, and now it has a much more applied perspective. It's a trend that I have seen in the last decade, and the delegates and the ATBC community is much more and more engaged to transfer science, scientific-based information to decision makers and in a way to affect politicians or public politics. So it's a quite important place together the people that are thinking in these very important global problems.